Yesterday that is gradually restoring football scholarships to Penn State. Lost because of the sanctions, because of Jerry Sandusky. The scholarships were basically at 85, reduced to 65, and now they're starting to reinforce them. Stephen A., I asked you this. Do you have a problem with that?
Not reinforce, reinstate. Idiot. She's such an idiot.
I'm not going to shy away from that. We understand my position. Skip and I have polar opposite positions on this matter. He doesn't believe the sanctions should have ever came down. I was a proponent.
Not that harsh.
Yeah, yes. I was a proponent of the death penalty. I felt that adamant about it. I understand why they did not do that. $60 million fine, a 4-year suspension, the confiscation of scholarships through 2017. I guess at some point in time when you consider the fact that George Mitchell, he's the guy, he's a former United States Senator appointed an athletics integrity monitor at Penn State. He talks about progress taking place and what have you. I get that. I get where people are coming from for that. I am incredibly sensitive to the Penn State community, the athletes, the innocent athletes in all of this, the coach, O'Brien, that had nothing to do with this. He was right here on this set, and I made sure right in front of Skip to make sure I articulated to him what my position was and that I harbored, no malice or ill will towards him.
We also had the son Jay Paterno on.
Exactly, and the son Jay Paterno. It was not directed. I understand that, and I certainly applaud Jay Paterno for coming to the defense of his father. That is his father. He should do that, especially if he believes that his father, obviously he's passed away now, was dealt with wrongly. But I'm going to remind everybody of this. And I want to preface my comment by saying I give 2 cents what anybody thinks on this matter. We are talking about a serial sexual predator, a pedophile that was allowed to run rampant on campus. I'm sorry, he even had a foundation where I believe the argument has been made that he used the football program to some degree as a recruiting tool for these young kids. Now, clearly they said he wasn't in practice and not nearly as much as people tried to claim he was or whatever the case, but a connection to the program, okay, ingratiated him with kids that he ultimately molested. And yes, Joe Paterno was made aware of this. Yes, he took it to the quote-unquote higher authority, if you want to believe that, when he brought it to the attention of the athletic director. Yes, Joe Paterno, God rest his soul, was on record saying he should have done more. All of these things are true, but it didn't happen. Mm-hmm. And as a result of it, children were molested. Mm-hmm. And again, I keep making this attachment, and this is where Skip and I vehemently disagree. The argument, or rather, people who want to ignore the fact that the football program, protecting its name, its reputation, is what took precedent over this. We part ways there. We part ways because, again, if it was not for Penn State's football program, if it was not for the coach and those associated, whether it's the athletic director, the VP for business, whoever it was, these guys that are being indicted and all this, no matter what, if it were not for trying to protect the name of the institution and the football program, this would not have been allowed to happen. The fact that the football program was what it was had everything to do with why Sandusky was not dealt with expeditiously, meaning years ago. And to me, that is what warrants this penalty. I have not budged from this position one bit, and with all due respect to the coach, Jay Paterno, or the people in State Park, whatever, I will never waver from that position.
We are diametrically opposed on this and will forever be, which is why I have to say, way to go, NCAA, for admitting your knee-jerk mistake. Clearly, Mark Emmert reacted over-emotionally and over-harshly and came down with what I thought was a near-death penalty. I thought it might have the effect, the impact of a death penalty, as I went through at SMU back in the 1980s. And it was so unfairly harsh to an entire program, a football program that means so much to so many. And there were so many innocent bystanders who got punished by the NCAA when this clearly, to me, from the start, was nothing but a criminal matter. And our due process worked. And that child molester is behind bars. And I would hope he stays there for the rest of his natural-born days. And yet, Stephen A., I don't think the NCAA should have even gotten involved in the first place here, because we can argue all day and all night about who knew and who didn't know. But Joe Paterno, as you say, God rest his soul, is no longer with us. And the due process and our courts did punish those who did appear to be involved in different ways. So I don't see that worked for me. Justice was served. Why should the NCAA, just for political purposes, just for PR purposes, have to look like it's child molestation? And again, your outrage is off target when then you punish the whole football program for what had become nothing but a criminal matter. Mark Emmert is admitting his mistake. He's saying that on good behavior under Bill O'Brien, who's done a phenomenal job of keeping that program together. My goodness.
Yes.
Mark Emmert is saying on good behavior, I've got to lessen your sentence here a little bit. I've got to give you back some lifeblood, some scholarships, and that is nothing but fair to me, to all the good people who support Penn State football. My position, Skip, is that as I sit here today, despite the fact that I am unmoved or unwavered in my position, I'm not as dogmatic about it, when it comes to Bill O'Brien, when it comes to the people in Penn State, because I understand that there are a lot of innocent people that are suffering. They had nothing to do with this. So the fact that Mark Emmert has made this, modifications in his thinking and decided to award them some scholarships, I get all of that. And I understand it. And God bless them, because, again, the innocent amongst them do deserve this. But what I'm saying to you is that when I talked about being a proponent of the death penalty when it initially went down, I'm talking about the fact that the program was put above the welfare and the well-being of children. And as a result of that, we have seen the death penalty invoked before, obviously with SMU and stuff like that. And that's cheating and, all of this other stuff. We get that. And I understand it. But the point is... That was widespread paying of players. That was widespread paying players, okay? So, you know what? There's a lot of innocent people that suffered then, too, that weren't getting paid. It was a lot of underhand... Listen, there's always innocent people that have to suffer because of the transgressions of those in a high position, an influential position that qualify as the face of a program, the face of a franchise, or whatever the case may be. This is Joe Paterno we're talking about here. If it were practically anywhere else, Sandusky would have been exposed years ago, and it would have saved the lives, at least spiritually and mentally, of children. And that's where I'm coming from. Unless Joe Paterno in his 80s was just naive to this, unaware of it. It's possible. It's if you want to say that's possible, that's fine. He didn't seem that lost to me when he was coaching those football games, and I don't know about that. And I wonder if he would not have stopped, if he would have stopped simply at an athletic director, if it were somebody bringing to his attention that Ohio State or somebody were watching practicing or stealing plays or something like that. I think he would have extended far more effort. But remember, bottom line, SMU back in the 80s benefited greatly from paying players because they could recruit better players. In this case, Penn State did not benefit on the field from this situation, unless you can argue that if it had become public, it would have hurt them from a PR standpoint. But again, it's possible to me, and I made this case to you early on, if Joe Paterno had known this 10 years before and he had simply disclosed it and made it public, we have caught this man. That would have been good for Penn State. What I'm saying to you, exactly that point. That's what makes it worse. If he knew. What makes it worse is that you could have nipped it in the butt. Don't give me that he didn't know. Don't give me he didn't know something. Well, I mean, listen, Skip, let me ask you a question. Real quick, y'all. Let's end this right here. We can end this right here. If somebody comes, if somebody comes to any of us, I saw this grown man in the shower sodomizing a 10-year-old child. Do we need 10 other cases?
Do we need 10 other examples? I only need one. This is an assistant coach that was working under Joe Paterno, went to his daddy, together they went to Joe Paterno, and you, Joe Paterno, the most powerful dude in the institution's history, who has single-handedly generated close to $1 billion for that institution over the years, because he had been there since the 60s. You stop at an 11th director. The president of the university came to you years ago and wanted to fire you. You threw him out of your house, told him to get the hell out of here, and kept your job and stayed on the football field.
We
but
sure?
You have to stop at the athletic director.
Okay,
we know
sure?
We know he went to the athletic director.
Okay, but did the assistant coach make it clear to Joe Paterno exactly what was going on in the shower? That was unclear in the testimony.
That was the belief. Okay, that's fair, because that was the belief. But I'm not going to sit there and say with resolve that that's definitively what occurred. According to what we read, according to what we heard, it appeared so. There, he was in the shower behind a 10-year-old boy naked.
I agree. That's
really?
highly suspicious at the very least.
Really? Yeah. And then you stop at the athletic director. But you're going to throw the president out of your house when he wants to fire you as a football coach, but you want to stop at the athletic director when it comes to potential pedophile behavior. Really?
AAA President Martin tells ESPN that more reductions in Penn State's sanctions could be considered next year.
Hey, listen, not going to knock them, but they're lucky. They lucky more than me. Wouldn't have been any reduction this early. I'm sorry.
More behind bars? After the break, ladies and gentlemen.